All right, welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I look at those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those things you just don't see up on the wall when you go to your LCS on Wednesday to pick up your new books. These are just those tough books that are rare, just impossible books, sometimes and most times very expensive, and just things that are just not easy to find. And just like looking into these books and seeing why they're so tough, and just kind of gauge the market just a little bit. Hopefully you like this series as well as all the other content here on Rennavision. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Make some suggestions. Share any of these books that I'm showing off here. If you have them, I'd love to see your copies as well. So tag me on Instagram. Just let me see them because I love looking at comics. So let's make this, more of a give and take. And guys, you give me some books too, because while I'm fine showing off the books that I pick, I'm also welcome to look into some books that I might not have never heard of. So make your suggestions. I have a long list already. I have plenty of suggestions from before, from plenty of you viewers out there, but I'm always welcoming more suggestions. So like I said, let's make this more of a give and take. And with that said, please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Continue to tell your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see what this week's books are, so we can see if these are truly ghosts or just hard to find comics, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I'll be right back. All right, so for this week, I kind of framed the books that I'm looking at around this particular book. This book was all the rage recently with being this 1 in 25 variant. It's just a gorgeous cover and just not easy to find. So this thing has gotten expensive. This top of the hot 10 list over on comicbookinvest.com last week. This is just a fantastic looking book. I do not have it. Kind of wish I did, but it is what it is. Gorgeous looking cover and just fantastic. And it's done by this artist by the name of, I'm probably going to butcher it, Sozomakia. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but fantastic. So, as I said, you can see this book, while not a ghost, I'm not bringing this up to say this is a ghost. I'm just saying this is not going to be an easy to find book, especially at a decent price these days, because it is very popular. And you can see this thing shot up already within like a week to over $100, $150, pretty much in a lot of cases. And there's some asks even more than that. So, just an expensive book and just a great cover. But looking at this cover, it got me thinking, what other Catwoman books are there out there? Does she have any really tough to find or very expensive variants? And surprisingly, she really doesn't have that many. DC has never been one, at least in the recent years, to do a lot of variants. While they've been doing some in the last year or so, it's not really their forte, and there's just not a lot of product out there for you to go and digging for. So that's where we're going to start. I'm going to look into some Catwoman books because there are a few, just not many. There are a few tough Catwoman books, and I'm just going to go through the couple that I thought of. So if you have any that I missed, make recommendations. Let me know in the comments, and maybe we'll look at them on another show, another week. But for now, these are the books that I grabbed to take a look at. And the first one being one I saw up on the wall at one of my LCS shops. Thought about getting it, but the price at the time was still a little steep. I think it was like $200, maybe 150 plus. It was just a little more than I wanted to pay at the time for a raw book. And this is Gotham City Sirens issue 1. This is 1 in 25 incentive. Gorgeous. Yeah. J.G. Jones cover. I'm a big fan of J.G. Jones. And this came out in June of 2009. So this is a while back, but pretty cool cover with the, Harley and Poison Ivy there. But Catwoman is prominently featured. So that's why I picked this for being a Catwoman cover, even though it's not just her, flying solo. Now, we look at this book. The overall print run for the regular edition is a healthy 52,000 plus. So that would make our incentive, being a 1 in 25, roughly about 2,000, maybe 2,100. So that's a lot of copies. That's a decent amount of copies potentially out there. And like I said, this isn't one that it's not impossible to find. You can find this if you go looking online. Just you may not see this in the wild as much these days because these 2,000 plus copies have probably all been kind of scooped up because Gotham City Sirens is a title that has been specced on for the last few years, going all the way back to before we got to see Harley and Suicide Squad. Everybody was looking at Gotham City Sirens as being something that DC is going to have to make. They're going to have to make this movie. And then we got Birds of Prey instead. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we still will one day eventually get a Gotham City Sirens project, but I'm not holding my breath anymore. But that all being said, what do we have in the CGC census for this particular book? Again, a decent number. There are 154 total, with 102 9/8s, 33 9/6s, and then a few others rounding out that census. And as we've been doing recently, I'm also going to look at the CBCS side of things for their population report. And even they have a few more. So we got 16 over on the CBCS population report as well, with 9 9/8s, 3 9/6s, and a couple others as well. So a decent number graded across both companies there. Now, if we look at what's available, I'm just grabbing a couple of examples this week. This is like $280 raw, $500 9/8 ask. But there are 10 copies up right now, and these are just two of the ones that I found. So those are my examples for a raw and a graded version, but there's a healthy 10 copies out there right now. So it is what it is. There's copies. And maybe I should have bought that copy I saw on the wall for $150, $200 again. I can't remember how much it was. All I know is it was more than I was willing to pay that week. And when I came back, it was long gone, so I never got to hem and haw over whether I should make an offer on it or not. But alas, this is a book that has eluded me. But I know I can get it if I really want to go look for it. And if we want to see what the market is on this, despite, the 13 watchers watching at $280 raw and 21 watchers on that 9/8, if you want to see what's actually sold, well, the prices there are pretty close. 9/6 got a $411 on a best offer. Best offer on a couple of raws, $230 and $220, where the original ask for north of $300. And then one sold for $300 back in November. So this book has gone up in value quite a bit, even from the time of when I saw it up on the wall. But still, prices are still a little too rich for me to be buying in at this price. Though I do like this cover. But it is out there if you want to go and get it. Now, the next book that I picked is an Adam Hughes. As you probably know, I do like Adam Hughes, as I have a Adam Hughes cover sitting right next to me right now. And that one is Convergence, number 0, where we get a classic and the more modern take on Catwoman lying there together, Convergence, issue 0. This was a high incentive ratio. This was a 1 in 100. Came out in April 2015. So high ratio incentive. One would think it's going to be kind of tough to find, but this was a book that was printed pretty heavily. So when we look at the actual print run of 143,000, that's still giving us our incentive of 1,400, which, while not that many, isn't that tiny either for a 1 in 100 when you think about it. So decent number of copies out there of this as well, and a pretty cool cover. I'm a fan of Adam Hughes, so I am going to be looking through rose-colored lenses every time I look at his covers. But that all being said, we take a look at the census here. That Hughes cover still has 236 copies graded on the CGC side, with 106 9/8s, 79 9/6s, 32 9/4s, and a bunch of others going down that list. And even the population report over on CBCS still has another 50 on their side as well, with 23 9/8s, 14 9/6s, and again, a few others to go down that line. So 50 copies is one of the higher numbers I've seen so far in my research onto the population report. Because, again, I haven't looked too much over in the CBCS side of things in a while, but I am looking over there now to kind of check out what they've got going on. I hear they have some new things, and we might even be talking to Steve Barak at some point here on this channel. So keep your eye out for that coming up sometime soon. Now, what do we have for this book out there for sale? If you want to go find this Convergence 1 in 100, are there copies? Well, there are. 9/6, $180, 9/8, $350. 11 actually total out there right now, and all of them are graded. There were no raw copies available from the little selection I could come up with in my searches when I was getting this ready for presentation. So interesting that they're all graded, but still, there are 11 copies, and these are just a couple of examples. So plenty to be had if you are in the market. Now, if you want to see what the market is yielding for this book, well, you can see the raws actually look like they moved because back in December we had an $80 and a $100 sale, as well as another raw back in earlier December for 125, and then a 9.8 that got only 140 bucks. That's not too bad for a 9.8. I might have considered that one personally, especially when you factor in if it's 100 for a raw, why not pay a buck 40 for the 9.8? You're guaranteeing yourself, the 9.8 just by paying that grading cost. But be that as it may, that's what's sold in the last couple of months for this book, which is going to take us to one more Catwoman book that I procured from the what's out there as far as variants, and saw that this one was a little bit interesting. This Batman number 50. Yes, I know you all remember all the hullabaloo and hoopla surrounding Batman and Catwoman getting married, the huge event that never happened. Yeah, heavily ordered book. Heavily ordered book. But this particular edition, while it may look like this variant, the sketch variant, you can see this one has a barcode. This sketch variant is the 1 in 100 incentive for that book. However, this black and white version without the barcode is the Diamond Retailer exclusive that they had at the retailer exclusive breakfast, I think at San Diego and New York back in 2018. From what I gather, that this book was given out during that retailer breakfast. So this is not the same edition. This is a much harder to come by version of very close, close. This is looks like it's inked. So this isn't the black and white sketch pencil version that the 1 in 100 is. This looks like this is actually has Scott Williams inks on it. You can even see his signature is there down below with Jim Lee's. So this isn't the same edition, but considering it was given away at that retailer breakfast, I don't have a print run that I can feel confident in giving you on how many copies may be out there for this book. But I got to imagine it's a lot less than that 1 in 100. Now, we can look in the census because this book is graded, and there are 71 in the CGC census for this black and white edition with 18 9/8s, but 26 9/6s. It's rare you see more 9/6s than 9/8s, but I guess those retailers didn't have a solid bag in their board or a top loader or something to put this book in when it was given out to them. So I guess some of these got a little jacked up at breakfast. Maybe there's some eggs or some cream cheese or something stuck on them. That being said, 71 copies in the census. I couldn't find this one on the population report, or sometimes it's difficult kind of sussing out some of these variants because you go off these different titles. There's so many variants for this book, so many store exclusive for this Batman number 50. It's literally pages of different versions of this book. So that's why something as unique as this one, I guess, would make it a little bit more interesting for collectors out there. I am a Jim Lee fan. This is another Jim Lee cover. I obviously have the regular version of it. I do not have this one, but it is an interesting book when you look at it. Listed for sale, we do have one, a 9/6 that's asking 200 bucks, and that's the only one out there right now. And when we look at what the market has sold in the last couple of months, there was a Signature Series 9/8 that sold for 500 bucks, and then there was another 9/8 Blue Label that was asking $1,300 that accepted $915. So interesting prices on this particular book. Like I said, I like it. Normally, I don't like the black and whites or the sketches, but I've said Jim Lee is he's exempt from that rule. I'm a huge Jim Lee fan, and I love his pencils. But even seeing the Scott Williams inks on top of his pencils, it's just gorgeous. So I'm fine in buying black and whites when it's this duo, personally. But that all said, I still don't have this book, and I'm probably not going to get it because it's still a little pricey for me. 200 bucks ain't that bad for that 9/6. I could consider it, but we'll see. Who knows if it'll still be there by the time I get around to shopping after, you guys all watch this and somebody else goes, you know what, that isn't too bad, and somebody scoops it out from under me. But have at it, Now, that was really all I could find for Catwoman. I mean, a lot of just regular issues, but there's no like hard or tough to find variants that I could really fit into what we do here for Chasing Ghosts. Granted, there's a great run of Adam Hughes covers on the Catwoman run from back in the day, but that's not a ghost, so we can't even potentially put that on this list. So then I decided, you know what? We're just gonna piggyback off of this Catwoman book and this Catwoman kind of theme, and we're gonna go with Marvel's knockoff version, I guess some might call it, with Black Cat, because She does, however, have quite a few variants out there and some that you guys might be interested in. So, also kind of piggybacking off of my Grail list that I released yesterday, that was just books that I'm probably never going to own, just things that dream books that mostly are those really super expensive classics. But I did have this particular book as an honorable mention because it is a modern variant, it's a store variant, and it's one I really do like a lot. But I'm just probably never going to shell out the bucks it's going to take to get this one because I don't see the price on this one coming down, and that is this J Scott Campbell store exclusive for Black Cat #1. This Le Chat Noir cover, which again, fantastic. I don't know, I like it. It's a great homage. It fits it perfectly. I dig it. This was again a J Scott Campbell store exclusive. As you know, I'm also a Campbell fan. I buy those mystery boxes every once in a while. I have not lucked into one of these out of that box as of yet. I doubt any of these are in that that mystery box. But hey, you never know. It's a mystery box after all, right? But this came out in June of 2019, and from what I gather, I think this one was limited to 1,500 copies. Some signed, some not. Because again, Campbell had multiple covers for this one. I think there's like 6 or 8 different covers for this issue 1 that he did at his store alone, let alone the covers he actually did for Marvel and the multitude of other variants in other stores. This was a big book when it came out. I didn't realize this was actually the highest printed book for that month that it came out, but we'll get more into that in a minute. This particular edition, though, you can find it. It's in the census. There are 218 in the census with 210 9/8 and then just a few others. I mean, 210 of 218 are 9/8 for this book, but I don't see them out there that often. So people bought them, they graded them, they were keeping them. Uh, so it is what it is. Even the population report has 24 copies of this with a 9/9 and 22 9/8, leaving just a single 9/2 to bring up the rear over on the population report side on CBCS. So there we have those numbers. What's out there for sale? As I said, there are copies. $851 with 15 watchers. Buy it now, raw. $1,100 raw. Uh, those both of those look like they're signed editions as well. And then there's the signature series 9.8, asking $2,800. So those are 3 very expensive books. And yeah, it looks like all 3 of them are signed by Campbell. I don't need the signature personally. I'm just not a signature collector, but that's what's out on the market right now. I mean, if it saves me $100 or $200 to not get a signature, I'm usually all in for something like that. That would be the version I would choose personally. But it is what it is. And what's sold recently on this book? Well, we did have one raw with no signature. 46 bids, got this up to $750 back in December. So yeah, you're not saving that much, I guess, by not getting the signature because 750 and that other one was like 8 something. It's still a very pricey book, and that's why I'll probably never own it because I can't pay that for this. As much as I like it, there's so many other books I would have to get before this at that price. But hey, we can all dream, right? Now, I mentioned how heavily printed this book was, and we're going to be sticking with Campbell for a good bit of this Marvel side of things because, well, he's done a lot of these variants that a lot of people like looking for. So we have this one also for Black Cat #1. I believe this was also the regular cover, but this particular edition is the Virgin incentive 1 in 500. So 1 in 500 on this thing. 500's a big number. Like that's a healthy order. So only really, I'm assuming most of the stores that did store variants are the ones that mostly got this particular cover. June 2019. But that's a big that's a high incentive. One we don't usually come across, but like I said, this was the biggest book for that month of June of 2019 with 255,000 plus estimated printed. So that would make that 1 in 500 only about 511, which is not too bad. That's kind of a small number when you consider it. But considering it's a 1 in 500 and yet there's still 500 of them, that's a big print run. Again, lots of variants for this book. Lots and lots of stores did exclusives for this book. Now, we go over to CGC side to check out this Virgin edition. There are 188 on the CGC census. with a 9.9. There's actually a 9.9 in there, as well as 170 9.8s and 11 9.6s and a few others. But there is a 9.9, which is you don't see all that often, especially on an incentive variant like that. When we do check the population report over on CBCS, however, we only have 11. I Two of these kind of fit the search criteria. I don't know why they're separated. They're both the same book, but they are broken out. I think somebody misdated the one. That's why, because one's dated 2019, one's dated 2010, but this is a 2019 book. So just an error, I guess, in the listing of the census. So it should be 11 total with 7 9.8s and then a few others, just kind of rounding that out. But how many are on the market for this book? If you want one of these 500, 1 in 500 exclusive virgin J Scott Campbell variants, can you find one? Surprisingly or not surprisingly, yeah, you can find them. You can find plenty, actually, because there are 19 of them out there right now. With raws looking at like 125 bucks, which is a quarter of the ratio. And then SS Signature Series 700 bucks, 9.8, and then a 9.8 Blue Label asking 500 bucks. So asking ratio at 9.8 with 11 watchers too. But 19 of them out there. And like I said, 125 buy it now is listed. And if you want to see what this thing actually sells for, it's even more surprising in that 9 bids for $74. Yeah, $74 is not like just a couple of bucks. It's not a Happy Meal. But $74 for a 1 in 500 incentive seems very cheap to me. Granted, I don't usually buy high incentive ratios that high, mostly because of the cost, but 74, you might consider it. And then you can see there's a $125 buy it now down there as well, which is, again, only 25% of the ratio of a 1 in 500. Interesting. That's all. Just interesting to me. Now, outside of this Campbell, do we have any more Campbell Black Cat covers that we can look at? Well, yeah, we do. And the next one, or next ones, I should say, because we have 3, is Amazing Spider-Man number 4. This is the first appearance of Silk. So this is a key book on its own, with a lot going on in the guts, with it being, Cindy Moon, for Silk or whatever, or I guess widely accepted Silk. She did show up before this, or Cindy Moon did, but first Silk is kind of pointed at, or the market has kind of picked ASM4 as being the book. But there's a color version. There is a black and white version. There is also a third, like, photo negative version of this book. And these 3 are all store exclusives that came out of this Conquest Comics store way back in July of 2014. So I tried to do some digging to find out how many copies were printed of this book. And I think I found it, but take this with a grain of salt, because I can't say this for certain, but it's from what I can gather, doing some internet research, doing some digging. It at least appears from some of the information I was able to pull that the color version, which is actually my favorite, because again, I usually lean towards the color versions over the sketches and the black and whites, has a healthy 5,000 print run. Whereas the black and white has 3,000, leaving the hardest to find the photo negative with only 1,500 copies. This kind of jibes with a lot of the store variant, like orders and order minimums and things like that, from what I've heard from dealers and retailers. I'm not a dealer. I'm not a retailer. So I just, it's things I hear, That all being said, that's still a lot of copies of this book. And I'm not even going to look at all of them. We're not going to hit all 3 up, because it would be here too long. Because as you might guess, there are a lot of copies. And when we look at just the color version of the Campbell variant in the CGC census, there are 631 with 339 8s, 201 9.6s, and then a bunch of others. So we're not getting to the black and white. We're not going to look at the photo negative, but there are a lot of both of those in the census as well as the CBCS population report. So I'm not going to bother beating a dead horse with this one. I just kind of wanted to show this cover because it is kind of cool. And it actually isn't that, hard to find. So maybe I shouldn't have even put it here, but here it is. I thought of it, so I wanted to look into it. But there are 80 copies. Yes, 80 available right now. So yeah, you can find them, but they are expensive. You can see 400 bucks asking for that color version, raw, 9.6 black and white, 350 bucks. Signature series of the photo negative, 9.8 from CBCS, 560. So not cheap prices, but there are 80. So yeah, this probably didn't belong in Chasing Ghosts, but hey, I thought of the book. I looked into it. I did the research, so I was putting it in here anyway. So you know where this one's going to end up once we get to the call at the end. This one's not going to make it, but still, we'll go through the rest of the motions. Sold recently, you can see it's still a pricey book. The color, one bid, $300, January 12th. Back in December, 6 bids got a black and white up to 110, and a photo negative sold. Buy it now. It looks like for $300 at the end of December. So book is not cheap, despite there being a lot of copies and a lot of copies on the market. People like it. Like I said, it's got a first appearance that a lot of people are hunting and chasing. This is still probably a rarer or lower printed version than, say, the 1 in 10, that Humberto Ramos version of this issue, because ASM4 had a high print run. Like, it was a healthy print run on that book because it was a new Spider-Man series. Spider-Man was popular. He still is popular. But this store exclusive, I think, was the only one, or there might have been another. But regardless, this book is still probably the the rarer version of this book. So I think that's also part of why the prices are so high as well. Now, the next is another book that's been on my watch list for a while. I see it pop up every so often. I consider it. I just haven't pulled the trigger to make this purchase, and that is this Superior Spider-Man number 20. Yeah, this is probably the most popular Black Cat variant, I should say. I mean, I do have those ASM, was it 606 and 607, both pretty cool covers by Campbell on the regular run, but those aren't variants, so they're not here. But this 1 in 50 incentive on this book for Superior Spider-Man number 20, 1 in 50 incentive from October of 2013. Like I said, I've been watching these pop up and get sold here and there over the last year or two, couple years, I guess, and I just haven't jumped because there are a decent number. 85,000 print run is still going to give us this incentive, 1,700 copies. So there are a decent number out there, which is why I hesitate at spending the prices that this thing goes for, because I feel like I might luck into one at a better price at some point. So I'm just crossing my fingers, hoping against hope that maybe this will find its way into my collection for a price that I don't feel is ridiculous. Now, what's in the CGC census for this one? We have a huge 400 copies for what we do here for Chasing Ghosts. There are 400 graded copies of this book with 288 9/8s, 77 9/6s, and a bunch of others. And even the CBCS population report has another 22 we can tack onto that with 9 9/8s, 9 9/6s, and a few others. So there are plenty of copies graded for this book out of that 1,700 potential print run. Listed for sale right now, we have 5. There's 5 copies out there right now with signature series. We've got some blue labels, 9/8s looking at $750 to $1,100, and then there's a raw down there from the UK that's asking $3,300. Yeah, I can't be doing that personally. That's just out of my budget. But those are the 5 copies out there if you're shopping. And that one, as you can see, it's my comic shop, that $1,100 9/8. So that's what you got on the market if you are also looking for this book, as I am. But again, I'm only looking for a price that I can stomach, and those are prices I can't stomach. But even at the market of what's actually sold, 9/8 sold back in November for $550, and then a raw sold beginning of December at auction with 20 bids for $265 plus shipping. That's close. I believe I was in on that auction, but I think I topped out getting close to $200 because, again, I like it, but you got to draw a line somewhere. You got to know your limits, and you just got to stick with it. Just know your limit and stay the course. And maybe again, opportunity will meet means. So one day, maybe I will get this one. But as of now, this one still eludes me at a price that I'm willing to shell out. Which is going to take me to my last book, the final book that I have in this selection. And it yet is another J. Scott Campbell Black Cat cover because he's done a lot. He's done it well. So that's why he gets to keep doing it, I guess. But this particular one is one you don't see as often as that Superior Spider-Man. And I think it's forgotten about by a lot of folks. And this is The Amazing Spider-Man Presents Black Cat number 1. It was a 4-issue miniseries. And this was a 1 in 25 incentive for that series that came out in June of 2010. So pretty cool cover, one you don't see all that often. I kind of like the kind of sketchy nature to her hair. That's kind of you get a little bit of a looks like a photo flare lens kind of thing going on. I don't know. I like the effect. I like this cover. But with a print run of about 25,000, that would give us our incentive very, very close to 1,000 copies. Not quite, but just under a hair under 1,000 copies potentially for this book. So there are copies out there. Just got to find them. How many are in the census? Well, for this book, we still have 178 in the census with 107 9/8s, 39 9/6s, a few others. We checked the population report over on CBCS. We have another 10 with 5 9/8s, pair 9/6s, and 3 9/4s over on that side of things. If you want to go shopping, there are 2 right now. There's a 9/8 asking $1,750, and then there is an $850 7.5. Yes, 7.5 is asking $850. And it's got 37 watchers. And there's 50 watchers over on that 9/8 as well. So there are a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot, but there's a good number of people at least also looking at this book as I am. And nobody's jumping at these prices. But we're all looking, watching and waiting, I guess. See what happens. But if you want to see what's actually sold for this book, well, those prices that they're asking aren't that crazy. 9/6 sold just a few days ago, January 17th. $1,000 ask, they still got $930. So not much of a discount on that best offer. January 8th, there was a $1,200 9/6 as well. That again, that $1,000 was for 9/6. $1,200 9/6 best offer accepted $900. And then there was a raw back in November that was asking $1,200 that accepted $650. Those are some big numbers, and probably again amounts I'm not shelling out for this book because one, I just don't have it for comics, and 2, there's still other things I should probably get before this. As much as I like this, there are still probably other books that should take precedence. But there we have it. We have some very expensive, some hard to find, gorgeous covers of Black Cat and Catwoman, and I don't know. Let's see. We make this call. As you can see, a lot of these had a lot of copies, and they probably shouldn't have put them on a Chasing Ghosts list, but as I said, I was doing the research anyway, so here we are. And yeah, when we make that call, most of these fall into that hard to find category. Hard to find and expensive, but hard to find nonetheless. While that last Black Cat book, that Amazing Spider-Man Presents #1, came close because I had 2 copies out there, and that one is a tough one. It's still, there's 2 copies. So by my recent decisioning, that can't be considered a ghost. So we are going with the only book that had a single copy available, and that is the Jim Lee Diamond Retailer edition, the black and white Jim Lee cover, as our only ghost of the week. That's my call, and I'm sticking with it. As much as I wanted that Black Cat to kind of fit, it just doesn't, because it is tough, but there's still 2. So 2 is still twice as many as 1. So it doesn't make it. So this is our only ghost for the week. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you have any of these books. I'd love to see your copies. Tag me on Instagram, send me a message, DM me, whatever. I'd love to see it because, like I said, I like seeing other people's collections. I like talking about comics, and I like sharing in this hobby with others. So yeah, let's just keep having fun. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoyed this series, even though we had just a lot of hard to finds and not really a lot of ghosts this week. Hopefully you still enjoyed that. I still have plenty of books on the list. Don't worry. I'm not running out of things to cover or things to look at. I still got plenty on the list, and you guys keep shooting me ideas and suggestions. I keep adding them to the pile, and we'll get to them eventually because there's a lot of comics produced, and not all are created equal. So we'll see which ones are hard to find. We'll see which ones are ghosts, and we'll keep going through this pile together. Thank you again for stopping by. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. Check out the live shows on Wednesday and Sunday. Keep an eye out for that CBCS interview we might be doing soon. And yeah, thank you guys. And I will see you guys soon with some more content.